Hi folks, welcome to another episode of My Life with Robert Burns. Jim Thompson and Douglas Mackenzie here again to talk to another of our cronies from around the Burns world. Hi Jim, how are you today?
Doing great, Douglas. Hi everybody.
Beautiful weather here in Mauchline. What's it like where you are?
It's lovely sunny weather, but unfortunately it's a bit windy, so it's quite cold. So I've got to put my hat on every time I go out.
Oh, there you go. That's the problem. Us guys that are getting here. Anyway.
Well, it's an old man problem, Douglas, more than that. That's exactly what it is.
Jim, tonight's guest is somebody that's really well known around the Burns supper circuit as one of our star performers. Tonight, folks, cronies everywhere, please welcome Beatrice Clark.
Hello everybody. Hi, thank you ever so much for inviting me along, Douglas. Nice to see you. Nice to see you again, Jim. So yes, here I am, and I think we met. Was it Newcomnick? You'd asked
That's
me.
Right. Yeah.
And we were doing a community event there, and it was a fantastic turnout, you know, for people to go along, and maybe people who wouldn't have generally gone to Burns suppers to have a wee afternoon and to get a wee look into what it's all about.
Yeah, it turned out really well, that concert. But anyway, we're here to talk. We're here to talk about you. So we always start with the first question. Beatrice, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, please?
Yes, hello. Yeah, so Beatrice is not my name. My name double-barreled. I'm actually Beatrice Catherine. So hyphenated Beatrice Catherine, and it's gone from Beatrice to B down the years. I'm originally from Kintyre, lovely Argyllshire. I went to school in a wee village called Clachan. And their maximum of children, I think, reached maybe 28 in Clachan Primary School. So my dad came from Campbelltown and my mum from Tarbert. And I ended up going to Tarbert Academy, doing, you know, the advanced years. And thoroughly.
So did you go to primary school in Clachan? Was there a primary school there?
A lot of absolutely lovely wee primary school in Clachan. I remember it well, very fondly.
And did you tell us there how many pupils were at the school? Was it a very small school?
Well, I think right up until primary 6 there was 27. There was 3 of us in my class in the school. There was Hazel Dale and Rowan Simpson, and then we had a chap join us in primary 7, Alistair Ray. And so yeah, so it reached 28. So yeah, no, it was a great wee place to grow up, and yeah, thoroughly enjoyed my time as a youngster. And you know, we had the beach there, we had the views of Isla and Jura down at Clachan Beach. We had the use of the Shetland ponies by the nearby caravan sites, and oh, it was just an absolutely ideal way to, you know, take in the young informative years. And oh, it was just absolutely fantastic. And then Tarbert Lochfine again, growing up there, we stayed in the outskirts of Tarbert. We stayed just 4 miles outside, so we get a taxi into school every day. Got a younger sister called Gillian, and so we lived by a shore, and my dad went from shepherding to owning his own fish farm, and so I get inveigled in that probably from the age of, I don't know, 13 or 14. And again, I just loved the outdoors, and I love nature, and I think I've been quite privileged in growing up the way I did.
So what subjects did you do at high school?
Oh, I did French, English, biology. Oh my goodness, what else? Oh, good old arithmetic. I enjoyed my history, and my music, of course. I absolutely adored my music. I remember in first and second year enjoying technical studies, but I'm not sure the teacher was that keen on girls in the in the class, and I remember making it was like kind of like a pot stand, and it was so bad he threw it at me. So I might have gone on and done technical studies, but I was too afraid of flying objects.
So which of these subjects did you take into a career?
Well, I actually studied business at the University of the Highlands and Islands in Inverness. But it was always music that was my love, you know. Music. I did my London College of Music exams on the piano, and I was also classically trained as a flautist as well. So never ever trained as a singer ever. It wasn't anything I ever thought that I would do. My dream when I was a young girl was to join an orchestra. I would have loved to have gone and traveled the world and played the flute in an orchestra. I get the chance to play in, I think it was 1988, with the Scottish National Orchestra, third flute, and it was when the Snowman Suite had come out. And, you know, it was just a kind of an opportunity I had at the time, and I'll never forget it. Just these incredibly professional musicians, people at the top of their game, and we're all creating this masterpiece together. And I wanted more of that, but it seemed that going to do business was somewhat more sensible. And I was a bit of a home girl at the time, and maybe traveling when maybe I was 16, 17, maybe I was too young at the time to maybe, you know.
And what our audience, or some of our audience, won't appreciate is that the University of the Highlands and Islands is quite a lot of remote learning, isn't it?
A lot of remote learning, yes, it is indeed. But I studied and I worked at the same time as well, so that was hard going. I worked on the Caledonian Canal as a lock keeper. And I became Scotland's first full-time female lock keeper. So I go down in history and the old books, maybe not quite as well known as Robert Burns right now.
So tell us more about that. How did that come about?
Well, I had been working in Lochgilphead in Argyll. And I was working for a lawyer at the time called Reuben Murdenigam, and I was in the side of the, I was a legal secretary for criminal law, and I was trained up to paralegal. I didn't like it in the sense that I could never shake off any of the cases that we were working with, and I found it to be extremely depressing, and I had a terrible time with it, and I knew it wasn't for me, and I needed a change of scenery. So off I went up to Inverness and got a wee job on the Caledonian Canal at Muirton Locks in Inverness for a wee summer job. And so I studied business at the University of Highland Islands when I was up there. And I was doing not too bad. I got on well with my work, and then they offered me a job. They knew I was studying, and they said, would you like to come on board and let's see how you are with business development? And I was like, what, me? And it was at the time when they were moving the M8 and all sorts of people from their houses and whatnot to create the reopening of the Clyde Canal. And then the second phase of that was to do the same the other end, the East End, with the Forth. And that big wheel in the middle, good old Falkirk wheel in the middle, I was involved in the whole of that. And it was just absolutely an amazing project to be involved in, right from the sightings of there was 2 designs, the way the Falkirk wheel was going to be. One was kind of like the spokes of a bicycle, and the other one, of course, is the design we know now. And I worked with some of the most incredible people, and was very, very privileged to be part of such an incredible, what can I say, just it was a mammoth task, a mammoth project, a mammoth task, and it took many, many people to be involved in it, and going from paralegal to lockkeeper to then business development, like something. But during that time, I had met the children's dad, and basically the boat had come in for me. You know, the love boat had come in. And he was the second officer, and he was studying. He's now a captain, and he's now the CEO of Lerwick Port Authority. And at the time when the director for Scotland had said to me, look, we would like to take you from Inverness, and we would want you to be involved more in the Falkirk wheel. You know, it's up and running now, the business development side of things. We would like to move you to Falkirk or Grangemouth. And I said, no, I'm moving up to Shetland. And Callum had, and his brothers had, a farm. And I mean, I loved all this idea of going back to the farming, back to the roots, you know, like my dad being a shepherd, and it was all very romantic and everything. And so of course the director for Scotland said, you're mad, you're going up to this island and you're giving up your career. Although things never worked out with Callum and me, we've got 2 wonderful children, Colleen, who's 18, and we've got Ian, who's 15. So we wouldn't change it for the world. Fantastic.
So that life was going to be quite far removed from anything you'd done previously, and yes, your father being the shepherd and the fish farm and such. You were never attracted to go into the fish farm?
Well, funnily enough, when I was up in Shetland, I went to Scalloway College and I studied the course, the marine biology that my dad had done, just because he'd done it, you know. And I thoroughly enjoyed that. And Callum's family also were involved with the fish farming, as well as the shepherding and what have you. So it was nice to go and learn a wee bit more about it all. But then, of course, the other thing about Shetland was the music. You know, you couldn't get away from music. So I was involved in many different things up there, and just absolutely loved it and made some fantastic friends.
Good. So when things didn't work out in Shetland, you decided to come to Ayrshire. What was that about?
I actually had my house in Inverness, so I got back to Inverness to start with, sold my house, and I moved down to Ayrshire. I've got amazing friends down here, and it was really just the other side of Arran. You know, I grew up seeing the side of Arran, so I'm now seeing the kind of Brodick side of Arran, and I loved Ayrshire ever since I was wee, and I think maybe in the 1990s I started coming actually. So actually wasn't that wee good friends of mine who I'd actually met in Argyll live here. And so I made this place my home, and brought the children up on my own for the best part now of 12, 13 years. And I've hopefully given them a good life, and they've got many friends here. And Colleen's actually studying business up in Shetland at the moment. So things all can talk about wheels and cycles of life. So yeah, I thoroughly enjoy it. And of course the music and burns and all that. I met an incredible chap who you'll know, Davy Hunter, you know, and his lovely wife Margaret, and he was involved, he and Margaret were both involved in Burns Bairns at the time. and we became friends. So Davey started to get me into the burn circuit down here. So I've been involved in that since 2014. So 9 years, can you believe that?
Well, before we start talking about your how you get involved in burns, tell us a bit more about your music career and what you do and such like.
Well, I came here and I worked with the air show for a while, you know, I helped to kind of develop that. And then once there'd been funding pulled, you know, from the council, etc., I thought, what am I going to do now? And I thought, well, I don't really want to do much overly stressful. I want to do something maybe that I can enjoy and others can enjoy. So I set up my own business, and my own business is called The Music Lady. And I decided that I would bring music into the care homes where it was much needed, where families needed to be reconnected with their families who are lost into dementia and Alzheimer's disease. And it went really, really well. Obviously, a wee lull over lockdown, a wee lull, a total annihilation. But it's picked up again over the last year and a half. In fact, I've just been at a gig this afternoon, and it's going really, really well. And I've started branching out into hotels now, where people who are in their own houses and they maybe have a husband or wife who has dementia, and you know, they're caring for them at home, can go out and actually experience a safe afternoon out in a dementia-friendly environment and mix amongst like-minded people, people who understand. So I'm very passionate about my business, and it's important to me. My granny, my mum's mum, she ended up with dementia, and I mean, way back then in the 80s, it wasn't. It was an awful hard job trying to get people to listen, you know, to what it was all about. It's much more recognised now, but I'll never forget, you know, the struggles my mum and Aunt Jeanette had, you know, with their mum. You know, it was just heartbreaking. And so I think that's where it stems from. I'm just remembering things about that particular time. I'd have been maybe 14 when things were particularly bad.
Yeah.
So so the business is going great.
Yeah.
It's about the people. I always remember that wherever I am being invited into somebody's living room. They've invited me into their home, and I always think that's a privilege. And
it's quite fascinating that music is such a help to people with dementia. I'm sure it doesn't necessarily apply to every type of dementia, but the recognition of songs and the memory of songs is amazing.
Well, they do say music and feelings are the last thing to go.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously music, they'll remember things through the music, the words of the songs. And there could be a son or a daughter sitting with their mum and they can't connect in any other way. But when they're singing the song together, there's that moment of unity, you know, and that is a memory that son or daughter will be able to have.
Yeah.
Forever, no matter what. That's a new memory that's been created that they can look back happily at.
Yeah. No, you're so right. We've got some good friends, and the husband can't remember what he did 10 minutes ago.
No.
But he can sit at the piano and play from memory many songs and many tunes, and I'm just absolutely fascinated by that.
Yes, in fact, I got a story at Christmas time. I'd gone into a care home, and there'd been a daughter with her mother, and they'd been called into the care home twice because they thought that was it, you know, that the mum wasn't going to see Christmas. So now she was there at the party, the Music Lady Christmas party, and she wasn't going to see New Year. And I'm singing all these Christmas songs and what have you. And then I said, I'm fed up singing these Christmas songs. How about a wee bit of Doris Day? Let's sing some Que Sera. Let's do Que Sera. So I started, and the hands in the air, because movement is very important as well, for a lot of people who are, you know, stuck in chairs and trying to get them to sit up and breathe and sing. And so I started to sing Que Sera, Sera, whatever it will be. And this daughter said, my mum, look at my mother's responding.
Mm-hmm.
And the tears started on the daughter. The lady's fingers started to move and her eyes opened. Now, this lady, there was nothing before that. For weeks, there was nothing. She was just being carted around. And the staff, the whole lot of them were crying, but she didn't make it till New Year.
Oh, goodness sake.
And that's what it's all about, you know.
Yeah. But they made that connection again through the music.
They made that very, very last connection that they will ever have had.
Yeah.
Through that moment.
Yeah,
music.
that's a great thing you're doing. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's
Let's
move on a little bit. And one of the things that people were surprised to discover at a recent supper that I was at and that you were performing at was that you also do a tribute act.
Yes, I do too.
All right.
So yes, I do. I do tribute acts. I do a Dolly Parton show. I know. Yeah. And also Shania Twain.
Wow.
So I enjoy that, but I do. It's a country show in general. But yes, and in fact, recently I was up in Inverness doing a charity performance. It was Stars in Their Eyes in Inverness, and it was for a charitable organisation called SNAP, and it's a Special Needs Action Project. And it's about getting youngsters, giving them opportunities, regardless of what their needs are. They can go and perform, they can go and sing, they can recite poetry, they can get involved in things in the mainstream. And a lot of these kids might not last, into, adulthood. But again, it's making memories for the parents of the children with the children. So on the night, we raised over £33,000 for this charity.
That's amazing.
I went on as Dolly Parton that night, and the place was just, it was just jumping. And you just think, well, if I can do something worthwhile with my talents, then that's enough for me. Might not be the most well-off person in the world, but there's wealth in other ways.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well done.
Thank you. No, it was incredible.
So I'm not sure how we get the link to Burns here, because I was quite tempted to wonder if you ever considered Dolly Parton does Robert Burns, but
well, I'll tell you, when I was working up in Inverness, I met a lovely couple called Margot and Hamish McClellan. How's that for a good old Highland name? Margot and Hamish McClellan, and they lived in Kiltarlity at the time. And I was involved in a number of concerts at, the Bucht Park in Inverness and various things at Edencourt Theatre, etc. And Margot said to me, would you consider coming and getting involved in a burn supper that we're holding at Brocky's Lodge, which isn't there anymore. It used to be a fantastic place. And I says, I would love to. What would you like me to do? Well, could maybe sing us a wee song or two. And would you do the reply from the lassies? And I said, the what? So I was flung right in at the deep end, getting involved right from then. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I got to learn a wee bit more about what it was all about.
Good.
And obviously I'd been visiting Ayrshire for years, but so I wasn't totally ensconced in burns. But of course now I am.
Well, that's given us the perfect link. And I'll hand over to Jim to talk to you a bit about that interest in burns.
Okay, thank you. Hey, Jim.
Yeah, can I just perhaps mention your link with dementia and music? On Monday, I went to see my mother, who's 93, will be 94 in June, and has dementia.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jim.
And it's life. She's had a good life, and she's
Oh,
only been
yes.
she's been in care now about 5 years. However, we were sitting and you're talking to her. She really doesn't know who you are or what's happening and stuff.
Oh,
And
that's hard.
across the corridor, there was a lady come in to see her husband, and the first thing she did was she got an Alexa out and she plugged it in, and she asked Alexa to play Al Jolson.
Oh, brilliant.
My mother knew, straight away. And it just shows you it's amazing. It really is.
And she'd have just come to life and sang along with it, and her wee face would have lit up. And
she was enjoying it, and then they moved on to Matt Monroe and Perry Como and
fabulous.
She was enjoying herself. However, burns.
Burns.
Right. The first question you've answered, how you get into burns in the first place. You're doing a favour for somebody, obviously.
I did. I had no idea what I was getting myself into.
Well, what did that lead you to?
Well, I got a lot of good response. And I remember I'd never really properly sang anything burns until that night at Brocky's Lodge. And I get such a good feedback for the singing. I thought, I don't really know what I'm singing about here. I need to find out more about the history of who Robert Burns is. I always think is because he's still with us, because he's all around us. And so that led to my love of all things Burns. But also, I'm incredibly intrigued by the woman behind Burns, of course, the incredible and a very underappreciated person, I believe, of Jean Armour Burns, the Belle of Mauchline.
Well, Jean was very important to him. In fact, Jean was his critic in many ways. And the Leitner work.
And I think without their support and her incredible understanding, I'm not sure that without that we would have have been as rich as we are by Robert Burns. I think she was a very important figure in his life. Yeah.
Well, he certainly wrote one of my favourite songs about her as he was passing through Newcomnock. And I just think, every time I hear it sung, I just think it's wonderful, And the first line of Where Parnassus Hill just sets me straight up.
Yes, I know. That's so emotional, isn't it? And again, it's the stories that you start linking behind his life, his journey, people he's become involved in observations like the Jolly Beggars, for example. And, yeah, he's a fascinating chap. I wonder if I'd have succumbed to his charms.
Well, you'd be woman number 7 to do so, wouldn't you?
Aye, that we know of.
No. I think we can fairly well establish that, because Burns is no a secret type of chap. He tells you just about everything.
I I know, well, that's right. A lot to be said for honesty.
He certainly confesses, and he also confesses to his sins. And if you read, for example, when he treated Jean in a particularly bad way, he wrote a letter about it and confessed to her friend. You know, the horse litter letter is there for anybody to read, and it shows Burns at his best and his worst, really. However, you're obviously in Ayrshire now and involved locally here, but I was enchanted to hear that you did a reply to the lassies. Are you still doing speeches and things like that at suppers?
Well, I've not been invited to do anything down this way yet. It's always been singing. But one thing I did take up during lockdown was writing poetry, and in the Lowlands tongue. So I've got obviously the Old Scots from the west coast of Scotland. When I was up in Shetland, I learned like the Shetlandic tongue, and now I've gotten inveigled obviously with the Lowlands tongue. And I mean, I absolutely adore Rab Wilson, you know, the work he does, his poetry, I'm just in awe. And I tell him every time I see him, you know, you're just incredible. So I've started writing poetry in the Lowlands tongue, and came fourth in the Federation of Writers in 2022 for my first go. So that's encouraged me to write a wee bit more poetry. But again, I'm not performing it. So why? I don't know. A wee bit shy maybe, but I'm writing it a lot, and I'm writing it from experiences and observations, just like the way Burns would.
So what about Burns poetry? What do you like in there?
As far as the Burns poetry is concerned, I love the observational poetry, like To a Louse, to a Mouse. I love, you know, how he explains scenery, and he just brings it to life. I absolutely love his description of how he can describe things, you know.
Right. His empathy with the natural world is just incredible, really.
And absolutely, and I love being out in the nature and listening to it and thinking, you know, what he was hearing and how he can describe the scene is absolutely magical.
So what suppers have you been singing at since you came to Ayrshire?
Oh my goodness, I've been plenty is the answer. Where have I been? I've been all over. I mean, I've been Cumnock, Girvan, where else? I've been in Kilmarnock, I've been Lockerby's not Ayrshire, but I've been all over the place. And also I do Burns suppers afternoons within the care homes as well, because that's an important thing, to bring them to people who can't go out to the Burns suppers as well. So I've played them many's a place, and I sometimes invite Davy Hunter along, and he'll do the poems, you know, and the address to the haggis. Well, I do the address to the haggis as well, but Davy does it so much better than me.
Right, well, you're a singer, so what are you singing at Burns suppers?
Oh my goodness, what have we got? Caw the Yows, I Walking All, Joan Anderson, my Joe. A lot of the standards, I suppose. But I'm busy learning other ones. I'm quite keen to get out there and sing some of the songs that are not so well kent, you know.
No, but I wouldn't disrespect John Anderson, my Joe, or if it's the first version of Caw the Yows, which I think has got the best 4 lines of love poetry ever written in the human race in the last verse. I genuinely think that you're onto a winner with that kind of thing.
Oh, really?
Particularly John Anderson. I don't know anybody who doesn't like John Anderson.
I love this line, and we'll sleep together at the fit. That gets me, you know. I mean, they talk about, you know, we'll climb the hill together, and, you know, that youthfulness, and then they've seen every year go by, this endless love story, to the point when in death they're sleeping together at the fit. Still, you know, they'll never be parted. That's just Burns at his best.
What I was about to interrupt Jim there, and to ask you if you've got a favourite song that you sing of Burns, one that you like singing better than others.
Well, I do enjoy singing A Fond Kiss, because that is the first song that I did sing at Brockie's Lodge in Kiltarlity. And it also has the best verse, in my opinion. I mean, how can you decide? How can you choose? But I love Had We Never Loved Sae Kindly, had we never loved sae blindly, never met or never parted, we had ne'er been broken hearted.
Well, Jim, I think it's either you and me that's going to have to ask Beatrice if she would honour us with that song.
Well, how about I send you a wee clip of one that we had prepared earlier, maybe a couple of years ago now, both Davy Hunter and myself. During lockdown, we did a number of songs, and I'm sure one of them was A Fond Kiss, and I'm sure Davy Hunter's guitar playing is miles and miles better than mine, for sure.
And perhaps even, you know, one or two other songs if you've got something available, and we can tag them on to the end of this podcast.
Yeah, one in particular that I thoroughly enjoy playing, and Davey has to tune his guitar a different way, so he's like, oh no, but it's called well, Ye Banks and Braes, a Bonnie Doon, and I thoroughly enjoy, and again, it's about, you know, nature, and I'll send you it, and hopefully you'll enjoy that one as well.
That'd be great. And I know Jim Thompson likes to hear Ye Banks of Braes sung with a female voice.
Oh, right, yes. So is it normally would you say a man's song?
No, well, she's obviously been taken advantage of, and the rose that she's left with at the end is a child. So it's a woman's song, and I don't know how many times I've been to, I go to the school competitions and stuff like that. As often as I can anyway. Sometimes you just can't manage them all, but and I don't know how many times I've been to schools, particularly national schools competitions, where you have maybe, I don't know, every 2 out of 3 male children under the age of 12 are singing that song.
Is that right?
Because they've been taught it at school, obviously, and
Yes.
don't get me wrong, it's a lovely song, and some of them were absolutely brilliant at doing it, but I just think it detracts from the message in the song. And
I understand, yes.
I'm just a wee bit of a purist at heart. I can't help myself.
No, I'm with you. Okay. Funny enough, when you're talking about children, I was involved in one of the most amazing projects recently in Mauchline, Douglas. I was working with a chap called Paul Brunton, who has a business called Rock and Roll Models, and we were working with the school, and they were learning about their history, their heritage, their ancestry through music, through song. When we composed a new song, taking into account Burns' time right up to the Mauchline Weir and the burning of the factory, and it was just an incredible experience altogether. But you know, the kids get dressed up, you know, I think that the museum had lent them, you know, the tam o' shanters and what have you. But the enthusiasm, Jim, you know, from these kids about their history, honestly, I went away so full, because I just thought, you know, we're doing not too bad a job by bringing this new generation in.
Well, can I tell you, when you stand there, I mean, I'm an old man now, right enough, but when you stand there and you watch somebody for primary 5 stand up in front of 500-600 people and recite a poem or sing a song or play an instrument, to be honest, it's humbling.
But they'll know folk like who Willie Fisher is, and they'll say that his real name, you know, like, yeah, Holy Willie's, but who was he? They can tell you. They'll know William Old, Daddy Old, you know him, the stool of shame and disgrace. They like that story. And we thoroughly enjoyed play acting it. So we were actually in the Kirk. Well, I mean, it was the old Kirk at the time, but obviously there's the new parish now, and we get this stool, and right, who's going to be on the stool of shame and disgrace, and who's going to pretend to be Daddy Old, and well, the tales that came out of them at that, let me tell you, I think they were getting a wee back in each other, you know. Oh, we had an absolutely brilliant day. One of the things that came out, and I'm not sure if you can tell me or not, Pussy Nancy, whether she is buried there in Mauchline or not. She's a bit of a mystery, because I don't think her and old Daddy Old got on very well, did they? They had opposite ends of the spectrum, I believe.
Well, I'm not too sure about whether she's in Mauchline Cemetery or not. I mean, I've been around it often and I've never seen it. And the last time I was there, it was because, I mean, Wally Fisher is buried right next door to Gavin Hamilton. And Gavin Hamilton was the instigator of his Burns demise.
That's right.
If you follow me. Because
Oh,
Gavin Hamilton's the only lay person or only person at the Ayr Presbytery meeting that can tell Burns' story.
And interesting, they're buried so close to each other when they were like fisticuffs in life.
And Burns is one of Burns, well, my view, Burns' best satire is on a man who is innocent of any crime. Because Wally Fisher was just a decent, hard-working guy with some wains that he was looking after, you know, and he's now maligned through history forever. But however, that's a separate.
Yeah, I think we could do a full podcast on that subject alone, Jim.
The thing is, there's Pussy Nancy's family grave there, you know, they're there, but the debate is that she's not there. So, and I can't find anything to clarify that situation at all. I would like to think she's at rest, but it doesn't. There's
we're fairly sure there's a lot of learned Burnsians that watch these podcasts, so you might get the answer to that question from somebody that's watching.
Much more knowledgeable than me, that's for sure. That's what I love about going to the Burns suppers, and you learn something new every time. It was like at the Smokers' Night recently, and there was all that kerfuffle because it was supposed to be at Lochside, and then they did a power cut at Lochside, so they moved it to the Royal in Cumnock and what have you. And the Royal did a fantastic job. And Bobby Jess got up and he started to talk. Was it 1815? Oh my goodness, I shouldn't talk about dates on these things. I'm dangerous territory. When Robert Burns was first exhumed, and I don't believe Jean Armour was very happy about this at all. It was against her will that he was to be moved, and it was it just a simple stone, and then of course he's in this mausoleum now. But Bobby Jess was talking about when they opened up his grave and how perfect he lay. He was perfect until the touch of man, and then he just disintegrated.
Yeah.
And of course, Bobby Jess, the way he'll tell a story is incredible. But it was so heartfelt, really brought it to life, so to speak, But I didn't know any of that story. And that's just one example of making it real.
Well, we need to get you down to Dumfries and get Bobby to take you on a tour.
I would love that. In fact, to be fair, he has invited me to do that. So I will take him up on that.
Yeah. Strongly recommend it. He knows his stuff. So.
Oh my goodness, absolutely. Yeah.
Anyway, enough about Bobby Jess. Let's get back to Beatrice Clarke. You told us you'd been inspired by Burns to write your own poetry. Is there any chance you could share some of that with us?
Yes. Let me see if I can find. What will I do? Right. Shall I just read something?
Yeah. Let's hear what you've got.
I always remember as a wee girl, my dad was trying to shift a rock. It was like he needed to shift a rock to plant a tree. And I don't know why they couldn't plant the tree around this boulder, but no, it had to be where the rock was. And I remember over lockdown, just remembering at this time the struggle he had. So this is called Tea Rock. It wasna sae muckle as sae deep and saroon. I couldna tell where it stuck to the groon, like a dentist extracting a teeth frae its root. I kent I must feud to get this brute out. Yet wha am I to unclog its virtues, its harm to mankind, nocht here in situ? So why do I ficht, and why do I try to seek him out, hear me ain battle cry? What's this poor rock done to me? I'm weary noo, I canna prize it free. The weapons of choice, spades, I had 3. Stain marks the spot where I want my tree. The stronghold of nature I can verify is stubborn like a hunting bird's eye. Not time nor season can alter that fact. Oh, James, I was not, but the stain had a crack. Chip by chip, day by day, I say thrawn, chip that boulder till dawn. I smacked it and stacked it to extract it awa. No guilt nor regret, there was near it in law, till piece by piece it grew small and there. I aimed to detach the beast frae its lair, to retain the deep drain of the soil I had trod. I covered stained pieces beneath the wet sod. Now it's gone, and well out to sight. Still in my mind, I respect our fair ficht. From where it stood, a tree does shoot, and many a year it's gi'en me fruit. Now and again, at the turn of a season, the earth'll thrill the roots, for good reason, for entangled again in hope for their sight, for the earth therein stains rise towards licht. Like the tree can renew by a new sapling grow, the king of all rocks canna again o'erthrow. It'll gradually fade by the tilt of my hand, by storm, root and grit, and then lost to the land. Ooh, thank you.
Well done, well done.
Excellent, excellent.
So there's no excuse now for you not to be reciting these things at some of the Newcomer Burns Club events, or even doing some Burns stuff.
Aye, well, that's right. Get myself out there and start doing that.
Excellent.
Next challenge.
Yeah. So really, we're coming to the end of our time. So it really just leaves us to say, Beatrice, thank you very much for telling us about your life with Robert Burns. Thank you.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you both so much for inviting me along. I feel I'm not worthy.
Very much worthy. We've certainly enjoyed any of the singing that you've done in the past, and your interest in Burns is obviously increasing with time.
Oh, I thank you so much. I feel so encouraged by you all, and it's a great gift, something that I don't take lightly, being involved in such an incredible group of cronies.
Perfect word.
So I'll just remind our audience that we will have some songs tagged on at the end, so not to switch off when you get to the end of the podcast. Thanks very much, Beatrice.
Thank you. Take care. Good to see you. Thank you. Oh, my love.